Hello and welcome. You are live with the New Mexico Department of Transportation. Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started in a second as we give people a chance to join us this evening. Thank you for joining us. Hello and welcome. You are live with the New Mexico Department of Transportation. We're going to get started in just a second, just giving people some time to get logged in and join us. Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Jennifer Heyer, Environmental Planner with WSP, and I will be facilitating this meeting on behalf of the New Mexico Department of Transportation. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you taking time out of your Tuesday evening to join tonight's virtual public information meeting hosted by the New Mexico Department of Transportation. We're excited to share information with you about the New Mexico 500 Rio Bravo Bridges Replacement Project. These are the bridges that carry traffic over the Rio Grande in Albuquerque's South Valley. Keep in mind that if you are calling in and watching online at the same time, please mute the audio on your computer to avoid any echo or disruptions. If you don't have immediate access to internet, continue to remain on the call line to hear our presentation. Now, before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to go over some housekeeping items. Only our presenters will appear on video tonight. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted to NMDOT's website following the event. That website is nm500riobravo.nmdotprojects.org. Tonight, we are also offering live Spanish translation during our event. Online participants can access the language channels, both English and Spanish, using the interpretation function in your Zoom toolbar. We recommend choosing the language you'd like to listen to now. You can choose between listening in English or Spanish, or toggle between both if you prefer. Again, please use the interpretation function in your Zoom toolbar to select the language you'd like to listen in on tonight, even if that language is Spanish.
Recomendamos elegir el idioma que le gustaría escuchar ahora. Puede elegir entre escuchar inglés o español o alternar entre ambos si lo prefiere. Esa función de interpretación se encuentra al pie de su barra de herramientas de Zoom, a donde puede seleccionar el idioma que le gustaría usar para escuchar esta noche, aunque ese idioma sea el inglés.
Gracias. Community members are encouraged to participate live at the end of our presentation during the question and answer portion of our event. That will be approximately 40 minutes from now. As we move into the question and answer portion at the end of our presentation, there are a few ways you are able to participate live. If you are joining us via Zoom, you can select the Raise Your Hand function under the reaction icon to ask a question live. If you don't want to be brought in to ask a question live but are joining through Zoom, you can also type a question in the Q&A chat box, a question and answer chat box at the bottom of your screen. If you are joining us by telephone, you can participate by pressing *9 on your telephone keypad. For those on the phone, if you would like to also watch online the video streaming, you can feel free to go to this web address. You can go to linktr.ee/New Mexico 500 Rio Bravo. We have a lot of information to share with you, and you may want to get a piece of paper or pen to write down information on the project or how to participate. Also, one of our team members, as you may have noticed, will be adding messages in the online chat throughout the meeting with details on how to participate in the project. You can also request a hard copy of tonight's presentation by contacting me through email or telephone. My email is jennifer.hyre@wsp.com, or you can call me at area code 505-878-6577. Now, I'd like to take just a moment to recognize our elected officials who are in our virtual audience tonight. With us this evening, we have Senator Michael Padilla. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Also, we have NMDOT Transportation Commissioner Hilma Chenoweth. Thank you for joining. And also with House Representative District 16, Antonio Maestas. If I've missed anyone, feel free to drop your name in the Q&A chat box so that we can see that you are attending with us this evening. Additionally, I would like to recognize our partnering agencies in attendance but not presenting this evening. These include the City of Albuquerque, Bernalillo County, Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District, Mid-Region Council of Governments, the Bureau of Reclamation, and Pueblo of Isleta. Again, on behalf of NMDOT, welcome to our event and thank you for joining. My name is Jennifer Heyer with WSP, and I will be facilitating this meeting on behalf of NMDOT. Next, I'd like to hand it over to Sandra Chavez to introduce our team members who will be participating this evening. Sandra?
Thank you, Jennifer. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Sandra Chavez. I'm a project development engineer with the New Mexico Department of Transportation. The NMDOT has partnered with an engineering firm called WSP to conduct the preliminary engineering study on New Mexico 500 Rio Bravo. I'd like to introduce our team that will be presenting this evening. You've already been introduced to Jennifer Heyer, our environmental planner with the WSP team. You will also hear from Jill Mosier, an NMDOT Assistant District 3 Engineer, Megan Myers, WSP Project Manager, and Jim Hyman, WSP Traffic Engineer, during the presentation. Also on the call is Justin Gibson, NMDOT District 3 Engineer, and Brittany Kime, our host with WSP. Everyone I just introduced will be available to answer questions after our presentation. With that, I'll turn it back to Jennifer.
Thank you, Sandra. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about what our presentation will cover this evening. We're going to talk a little bit about the project limits and background of the project. We're going to provide an overview of the public meeting and the input received during the study phase of the project. We're going to talk a little bit about the recommended alternatives and proposed improvements. We will talk about how traffic will be maintained and information about adjacent projects to this one. We'll talk a little bit about the NMDOT project development process. We'll discuss the project schedule and next steps, and finally, we will end the meeting with a question and answer session in about 35 minutes from now. As a reminder, this presentation is being recorded and will be posted on the project website, which is nm500riobravo.nmdotprojects.org. If you don't have access to internet and would like to request a copy of our presentation, you can call me at area code 505-878-6577. As a note, once we do get to our question and answer session, we will continue to stay on and answer all of your questions to make sure that everyone is heard and we get all of the input received from all of you and your questions answered. Now, I would like to pass the virtual microphone to Megan Myers, WSP Project Manager. Megan?
Thanks, Jennifer, and thank you everyone again for joining us tonight. I'm going to go over some of the basics about this project, its location, and the background of what work has occurred to this point. The New Mexico 500 Rio Bravo Bridge project stretches from Isleta Boulevard west of the Rio Grande. It extends across the Rio Grande and Riverside drains through the intersection of Rio Bravo with Poco Loco and Dean Drive, and ends near 2nd Street east of the river and near the railroad, which you can see in this image here. The project does not include the Isleta Boulevard and 2nd Street intersections at each end, but does include the full road corridor in between and the bridges and some of the local roads near the bridges as well. The project purpose and need can be seen here on this slide. The purpose of the project is to address structural deficiencies while also reducing congestion and improving multimodal transportation system connectivity within the project limits. The need for the project is based on the fact that the eastbound river bridge is in poor condition and requires replacement. Pedestrian and bicycle facilities are discontinuous in the project limits, and additional river crossing capacity is needed in the metro area. So far, the project has progressed through the study phase, which includes an initial round of public involvement and is currently in the preliminary design phase. Next, I'll pass things to Jill to give a brief overview of some of the ongoing work that has been happening on these bridges.
Thank you, Megan. And hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening. I'm Jill with the NMDOT. Before the team tells you about the upcoming project, I want to touch on the emergency rehabilitation project that was carried out in this location at the beginning of 2020. At the end of 2019, one of the NMDOT bridge inspectors noticed a bump on the bridge deck that led to an emergency inspection of the eastbound Rio Bravo Bridge over the Rio Grande. It was discovered that the bridge pier was in need of immediate repairs. Traffic closures were put in place to remove loads from the bridge for the safety of the traveling public until the repair could occur. We know how frustrating this was, especially when you were driving through and not seeing the work that was being completed. During the repair, work was occurring under the bridge, and since sections of the bridge had to be lifted off the pier, the eastbound bridge had to be closed to traffic completely. Since this was an emergency situation, the project had to move forward as quickly as possible. This upcoming project we are discussing here tonight is different. In contrast to the emergency, this project was programmed during the 2018 statewide transportation plan update. This project is not in response to that emergency, but because of the condition rating of the bridge and the fact that it is at the end of its overall lifespan. Now that we have the time to plan for the project, we can also plan for how best to maintain traffic during construction. In the meantime, you may still see our inspectors out looking at the bridge. We have some additional maintenance work that we are scheduling, such as patching some concrete, resetting the bearings, and replacing bridge joints, all in an effort to ensure the functionality of the bridge until we can identify funding and schedule construction for the replacement that Megan will be telling you more about. We appreciate everyone's understanding during the emergency repair. We ask for your continued patience as we schedule some additional repairs and look forward to giving the public a new bridge to utilize for years to come. Megan, back to you.
Thank you, Jill. Next, I will recap some of the topics we covered and the feedback we received during the previous public meeting that was held for this project. During the study phase for the project, a public meeting was held on December 9th, 2020. During that meeting, we reviewed various treatments and alignment alternatives that were being considered for rehabilitation or replacement of the bridges. This meeting was recorded and is still posted to NMDOT's YouTube channel for anyone who wishes to watch it or rewatch it. A MetroQuest survey was also performed to gain public feedback on important issues and aspects of this project. The project team received lots of public feedback through submitted comments as well as through the MetroQuest survey. Here you can see some of the key concerns and topics of interest from this feedback, including focuses on safety, environmental impacts, traffic, and noise. Desire to have construction start and end as soon as possible was expressed, while also prioritizing safety. Public feedback also included concern over assuring there would not be complete closure of the bridge to traffic, the expected increase in level of traffic on Rio Bravo, and the access to trails and parks near the bridge. Environmental impacts, including noise concerns, were also a common theme of feedback we received. NMDOT and the project team carefully consider the feedback received from the public, along with other key factors when choosing a preferred alternative to advance from the study phase. We'll elaborate more on the alternatives that are being advanced to the design stage of the project in the next few slides. But some examples of how the concerns were expressed, or how the concerns expressed were taken into account, are shown here. For example, a straight, partially offset bridge was chosen for the replacement, which requires fewer impacts to the bosque and properties than some of the other alternatives. A 14-span bridge is being advanced, which reduces the number of piers impacting the river from the existing condition. There will also be no full closures of traffic during construction, including maintaining 2 lanes of travel in the peak travel direction. And lastly, a noise study has been performed to determine the areas where noise barriers would be feasible and would be able to reduce the noise decibel level. And continued evaluation of the reasonableness and cost effectiveness of these locations will be performed during the design phases of the project. Next, we'll give some more detail regarding the proposed improvements for this project. The recommended alternative that's being advanced to the design stage of the project includes the following. As I mentioned before, there will be a new 14-span bridge that will be constructed using steel girders with a concrete deck that will carry both directions of traffic across the Rio Grande. The bridge will be offset to the north from the current bridge location by about half of the bridge width. A new 2-span bridge will also cross the Albuquerque Riverside Drain to the east of the river bridge. This bridge will be a concrete slab bridge carrying both directions of traffic, and the open drain below the bridge will be replaced with a closed pipe culvert. The current drain and overhead bridge that's there now can be seen in the middle photo on the right there on this slide. The concrete box culvert on the west side of the river that carries the local access road underneath Rio Bravo Boulevard will be removed. This culvert and access road can be seen in the bottom photo on the right here on the slide. In the new configuration, the access road will instead cross under the first span of the new bridge, making access to the south side of the bridge a little easier. Pedestrian access will also be reconfigured at both ends of the bridges to provide new inclined walkways to bring pedestrians down from Rio Bravo to the riverside trails below. This will improve connectivity around the popular park and trails in this area, and we will show a bit more detail on these improvements in a few slides. This slide here shows a visual of the improvements being designed on the west side of the bridge and river, as well as across the Rio Grande. In the top image, you can see how Rio Bravo Boulevard shifts to the north as you're approaching the bridge. There will be new sidewalks on both the north and south of the road and bridge. The access road at the northwest side of the Rio Grande Bridge will travel along Rio Bravo, along the north side of Rio Bravo, then cross underneath the bridge to traverse to the south side, and will lead to a new boat ramp access point to the south of the new bridge. The bottom image shows the bridge crossing the Rio Grande with lines of drilled shaft foundations at each pier and abutment depicted with circles. Here you see some of the improvements planned for the east side of the river. The top image shows a new access road and parking for the Riverside Park and picnic areas. The bottom pictures again show the new alignment of Rio Bravo, as well as the new Poco Loco and Dean Drive alignments. And you can see these local roads will both shift north along with the alignment of Rio Bravo from where they are now. The local roads will cross under the Albuquerque Riverside Drain Bridge, which can be seen all the way to the left of that bottom left photo. Yeah, they're being circled. And their intersection of the local roads with Rio Bravo will be reconfigured slightly to help with vehicles turning onto Dean Drive And that's where you can see that sort of jug handle looking turn. And as shown in the bottom right image there, an engineering study will be done at this intersection as well to determine if the installation of a traffic signal is warranted. For the next two slides, we wanted to show some of the expected right-of-way impacts that are needed for these proposed improvements. This slide shows the west side impacts, which include a temporary construction permit, or TCP, that will be needed all the way at the western limit of the project along the south side of Rio Bravo. That's shown in the bottom left image. You can also see the expected permanent right-of-way impacts along the north side of Rio Bravo, just west of the river. These will be required to shift Rio Bravo north and to construct the new bridge. No impacts to buildings or houses are anticipated for this project, though. And impacts to Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District, or MRGCD, property will be handled through licensing agreements. On the east side, you'll see similar property impacts along the north side of Rio Bravo that are needed to construct the new bridge and access roads, as well as right-of-way impacts at the south side of Poco Loco Drive intersection with Rio Bravo, which will be needed for the road construction as well as for drainage. Again, there will be impacts to MRGCD right-of-way within the park, which will be handled through licensing agreement. And there's some more temporary construction permit and construction maintenance easement, or CME, areas that are shown at the driveway tie-ins and along the south side of the project limits in the two right-hand photos there. Once again, no building or house impacts are anticipated for this project in these areas. The existing and proposed bridge typical sections are shown here. We will be providing space for an additional lane of traffic in both directions and wider sidewalks on both sides of the bridge while maintaining shoulders and medians. The future lane that you see there in the bottom for the proposed typical section will be opened when a third lane is constructed to the east of the project so that that lane can be tied into something. And that way it'll be continuous along the corridor. And lastly, for proposed improvements, here we're showing some of those preliminary design concepts for pedestrian access at both ends of the bridge that I mentioned. On the left, you can see a plan view of the project with a new inclined pedestrian walkway that connects the southern sidewalk along Rio Bravo to the access roads below. The walkway is just above the label that you see there. And you can see where it connects to the sidewalk along Rio Bravo and to the access roads to the right. In the right image, you can see a 3D rendering of a similar walkway that will be built to the east of the Albuquerque Riverside Drain Bridge. The view that you see there is looking to the northwest. Dean Drive is shown in the foreground, and then the bridges are shown extending toward the top left corner of the picture. The walkway will allow pedestrians to access the Riverside Trail and local roads below from Rio Bravo above. And with that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Jim Hyman.
Thanks, Megan. I will summarize key aspects of the maintenance of traffic during construction and adjacent construction projects along Rio Bravo Boulevard. As Megan indicated, the new bridges will be offset to the north of the existing bridges. The first major construction phase will be to build the north half of the new bridges as close to the existing bridges as practical. The new north half will include a sidewalk and enough width for 3 travel lanes. Traffic will remain on the existing bridges while the new north half is constructed. Tying the new offset bridge into the existing roadway may require lane reductions in the westbound direction. These are the transition areas, and lane reductions are expected to provide enough room for the equipment machinery, as well as to provide a safe work zone for construction workers. The second major phase will be to demolish the existing bridges and construct the remainder of the new bridges, or the south half. Traffic will be moved to the newly constructed lanes on the north side. Movable barriers will be used to provide 2 lanes in the peak travel direction, 1 lane in the lower volume direction. This is expected to be 2 lanes eastbound during the morning hours and 2 lanes westbound during the afternoon hours. There will be several subphases to these 2 major phases to build this project. The actual construction sequence has not yet been determined. This slide illustrates the movable barrier on the new north half that will have 3 travel lanes. The road zipper is a specialized machine capable of moving the wall barrier to provide 2 lanes in the peak travel direction. It is expected that this operation will occur twice daily. This photo is of a bridge in the northwest and shows the road zipper application on a 3-lane section, similar to what will happen with this project. This will be the first application of this system in New Mexico, so there may be a learning curve in the first few weeks of operations. Pedestrian and bicycle access will need to be maintained consistent with how these movements are accommodated today. This includes crossing the river on the bridges and crossing Rio Bravo on the local roads. Because the first major phase utilizes the existing bridges, pedestrian and bicycle travel will be much like today. However, the Riverside Park on the east side will be impacted by the new north half of the bridge because of the offset to the north. The details of how the Riverside Park will be maintained have not been determined yet. Some disruption should be expected though, including full closure of the picnic and parking area on the north side of the existing bridge until the north half is completed. This will be coordinated with Bernalillo County, who administers the picnic area. The second major phase will utilize the sidewalk on the new north half of the bridges and along the north side of Rio Bravo Boulevard. Access to the Riverside Park should be better after the north half of the new bridge and roadway are constructed. When the bridge over the Albuquerque Riverside Drain is built and when the Albuquerque Riverside Drain is converted to an enclosed culvert pipe, full closures under Rio Bravo Boulevard are expected to be necessary. When this occurs, a temporary traffic signal will be provided at Poco Loco Drive intersection to facilitate crossings of Rio Bravo by pedestrians and bicyclists. Bernalillo County is developing 2 projects immediately east of the bridge replacement project. This includes the Rio Bravo 2nd Street intersection and a project referred to as the GAP project, which will complete the 6-lane Rio Bravo Boulevard roadway between the 2nd Street intersection project and the I-25 Rio Bravo interchange reconstruction project, which ended in the Prince Street South Diversion Channel area. When all these projects are complete, Rio Bravo Boulevard will have 3 lanes in each direction and sidewalks or trails from Isleta Boulevard to I-25. With that, I will turn it back over to Jennifer.
Thanks, Jim. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about the NMDOT's process for developing projects and the project schedule. Currently, we're in the environmental analysis and preliminary engineering stages of this project. This is called Phase 1C and 1D by the NMDOT. During the study, Phase 1AB period, we identified what improvements were needed and why, and we evaluated the options that could be feasible to carry through to design and eventual construction. After the prior public meeting held in December 2020, we incorporated the public and stakeholder input received to identify and advance the preferred option. We are continuing to refine the project elements and are working with our stakeholder agencies, such as Bernalillo County, MRGCD, and Bureau of Reclamation, to name a few, and your input is key to helping us further refine the preliminary engineering design and enable us to work towards drafting final design plans. We will answer your questions at the end of the presentation, which is going to be approximately about 5 minutes from now. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about the schedule of the project. The project began in spring 2020 with the Phase A-B study. We then that was part of collecting data to develop conceptual alternatives that were presented at the study phase public meeting in 2020. We completed the study in summer of 2021, at which point NMDOT had a preferred alternative to advance into preliminary design and environmental analysis, which we've been doing this past year and into tonight for your input. We will incorporate the feedback received and continue to advance the project. The goal right now will be to finalize design roughly 1 year from now, with construction starting pending availability of funding. Our next steps in the process, those will be to gather input from the public today and after our event. We've already been gathering some of that public input, and for those of you who have already sent us your comments or called us, thank you very, very much. It's very helpful. We will also, as our next steps, be completing the environmental studies and the documentation. We'll continue to refine the design plans and develop final design plans. We'll identify right-of-way acquisition needs, and we'll prepare the project for construction letting. Now that you've heard from us, we would like to hear from you. But before we open it up for our question and answer portion of tonight's event, I want to tell you my contact information and how you can reach me to provide your comments and thoughts to our project team and ask questions about the project. You are welcome to email me your comments and your questions. My email is jennifer.hyre@wsp.com. You can call me to provide your comments or ask questions. My phone number is area code 505-878-6577. You may also send postal mail to our WSP office in Albuquerque. We prefer electronic submittals, but paper comments are welcome as well. We do, however, ask that you provide your input and your questions by May 13th to help our project team continue to advance the project. As I mentioned before, you are more than welcome to request a paper copy of tonight's presentation. Also, this recording, additional project information, and project visual aids presented tonight, as well as contact information for the project team, is available on the NMDOT project website, which is nm500riobravo.nmdotprojects.org. In addition, we have, similar to what we did for the first public meeting, we have developed an online interactive survey to help us learn about your concerns and priorities. To access our MetroQuest survey, you can go to the following web address. That address is linktr.ee/NM500 Rio Bravo. MetroQuest is a platform that we've used for this online survey tool. It's a web-based survey tool to gather input on your concerns and priorities. You can use it on your smartphone, on your tablet, on your laptop, or your desktop. It's compatible with all of your devices. Additionally, we have created the survey to be bilingual if you prefer to review the information and answer the questions in Spanish. We are looking forward to your questions and will be available to answer those asked in either English or Spanish. So when a question is asked verbally in Spanish, our Spanish interpreter will interpret the question for the project team before it's answered. This may cause some pause as the interpreter moves between the two audio channels. This is normal, just please be patient with us. It's just part of the process of interacting with dual language channels in the Zoom platform. As a reminder for asking questions, if you are joining us through Zoom, you can opt to raise your hand. You can select the raise your hand icon to ask a question live. Alternatively, you can also type your question in the Q&A chat box located in the toolbar at the bottom or top of your screen. If you have joined us through the telephone, you can press *9 and you will be able to be brought in to answer your question live. Again, if you have joined us online, please use the interpretation function in your Zoom toolbar to select the language you're listening in, even if that is English. And with that, we're going to start taking our first question. I see a question from Senator Padilla. Thank you for this thorough presentation. Once the project starts, what is the anticipated length? I apologize if you already said that but did not hear it. I'm guessing you are asking as to how long the construction is expected to last. That's my interpretation of that. Megan, would you be able to help us answer Senator Padilla's question?
Sure. Right now, we have not developed a full detailed construction schedule, but we are anticipating to be able to keep the project to 2 construction seasons, which would be, in the end, likely less than 2 years. Jill or Justin, I don't know if you have any more input on that, but that's what we're thinking as of right now.
Yeah, just a brief follow-up to that, Megan. With this being within the river corridor, projects such as this in this type of replacement usually do require coordination with certain aspects of with the Conservancy and also Fish and Wildlife. And we usually see that these last 2 years.
Thanks, Justin.
Yeah, thank you, Justin. Thank you, Megan. Very helpful. We have another question from one of our online listeners. One of our listeners asks, is there going to be speed bumps on Dean Drive? They are needed badly. Cars fly down this road and there are kids here. That's a very good question. Thank you so much. Megan, would you be able to help us answer that?
I think I might throw that to Jim.
Thanks, Megan. Yeah, Dean Drive is a local road, low speed, so it is appropriate to put traffic calming devices on that type of street. So we can certainly talk about that amongst the design team and with the local agencies that maintain those roads, Bernalillo County, I think. So we can certainly consider that. But I think it might be a speed hump instead of a speed bump. You know, speed bumps are very abrupt and they're the kind of thing you run into parking lots, kind of obnoxious bumps. So I think because there's a lot of bikes on that road and we'll have to keep drainage moving. So we'll have to consider all those things in that solution.
Thanks, Jim.
Great. Thank you, Jim. We have a question from one of our anonymous attendees. The question is, will there be any eminent domain / condemnation as part of the project? Also, sound walls or sound barriers? That's an excellent question. Megan, can you help us get started on that question? We might then need to pass it over to Jill, but can you help us get us started on that question?
Sure. Yes, I don't believe we're looking at condemnation as part of this project. And as far as sound walls or sound barriers, we did perform a noise study that began the process of looking into where that could be feasible. And we'll need to continue looking at the cost effectiveness and reasonableness per receptor and things along those lines as the project moves forward. So we don't have that process completed yet. But Jill, if you have any more information on that.
Thanks, Megan. So yes, this is a project that has federal funding on it. So current federal policy states that When we have a project that changes the roadway configuration where we're widening and moving traffic closer to the, as it's called, noise receptors, so to a home or to a business. If that analysis that, and as Megan said, they've completed the analysis and they're going through processing the data. So if that analysis supports the need for abatement, then the mitigative measures such as a sound wall could be considered. Part of that is there's a certain volume, a certain threshold that has to be met. So if that's met, then we proceed with the mitigation, and if that is not met, then we do not move forward with mitigating.
Thank you, Jill.
I think I want to add to the right-of-way answer. That's okay.
Yes, absolutely. I was going to add to it as well, so you go for it.
We do need some permanent takes from private properties. So those takes they'll follow the federal and state right-of-way acquisition process. Depending how everything goes with that, there could be condemnation if the property owner doesn't like the sort of the conditions of the sale or the acquisition of the property. But I think the DOT likes to try to work with people and try to, work everything out without going to condemnation. But since we do have some acquisitions of property, it could happen. So.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah,
And
thanks.
just to reiterate, as Megan had mentioned during the presentation, that part of the project is we're not proposing to take any residences or buildings or having any displacements. That is not part of this project, just to kind of elaborate a little bit on what Jim had said. So thank you for that question. Another question from one of our online listeners is, we also have property that you can rent for washouts or construction equipment behind 602 Rio Bravo. Thank you. That wasn't a question. That was a statement. I appreciate that. Another question we have from Mr. Cherry. Mr. Cherry asks, during the construction period, will the bridge be shut down completely or traffic diverted from one side to the other? Thank you for that question. Megan, or maybe this might be a Jim question to talk a little bit about the zipper. Which one of you would like to take this?
Yeah, Jim can go through the zipper again, but I will say that we are not planning on shutting down completely. We know that that's important. And so that's why we are looking at the use of the road zipper in order to be able to keep traffic flowing in the direction it needs to and keep lanes open in both directions.
Yeah, and the first phase is to keep traffic on the existing bridge. So nothing will really change while we're building the north half of the new bridges in the north side of the roadway. So once that north side is done, there's only going to be 3 lanes, because to put 4 lanes there, we would have took more property, and we didn't want to do that. So we're going to try this road zipper where we put 2 lanes in the peak direction and 1 lane in the off-peak direction. So there will be traffic transferred to the north new bridge while the old bridge is torn down and the south half is reconstructed. And once that's done, traffic can be on both sides of the new bridge. But you should anticipate lane reductions for all kinds of, work on the sides and all that kind of stuff. But there shouldn't be any lots of conversions of traffic. It'll be on one side or the other.
Great, thanks, Jim. We have a couple people who have raised their hand that would love to come and ask us questions live. So Brittany, would you be able to bring on one of our online listeners or our telephone callers?
Yes, we
Great.
have Chris OG. I will allow you to speak now, and you may have to unmute on your end as well. Again, the username we're seeing on Zoom is Chris OG. If you have your hand up, you should be able to unmute and ask your question. All right, it looks like we're having some problems there, so I can go ahead and troubleshoot that, but we can move to our next person with their hand up, which is Mark Garcia. I will allow you to talk now and ask you to unmute. Mark Garcia. Mark, if you are, it looks like you're still muted on our end. So you should be seeing an indication to unmute. An announcement that I'll make for all of the people with their hands up. We will ask that you go to the interpretation section in Zoom and select the English channel so that if you're speaking, we can hear you. All right. Let's try Stephen Abeta.
Thank you very much, Brittany. My question is really simple. Will there be any sweeping maintenance on the roadway for the bicycles to cross the bridge? Right now, there's no sweeping maintenance that occurs. So there's just a bunch of rocks and pebbles all over the bikeway. And it makes it really awful to cross the bridge with that kind of a scenario. And sometimes you feel like going into the lane a little bit because it's so bad with glass and everything else. So I was just wondering if there's going to be any kind of sweeping maintenance done on the bicycle lane. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. That's a great question. I appreciate you asking that. Jill, would you like to help us answer Stephen's question?
Sure, I can do that, and then I can actually defer to Justin too if he has anything more to add. So in a section of roadway like this, there's different maintenance standards as spelled out in the New Mexico bike plan whenever it comes to what is a bike route, which is whenever we allow or have the shoulders available for bikes versus a bike lane, like might be in the city area or on a city street. So basically, whenever they come out and our maintenance guys are at the point where they have Rio Bravo in their queue, New Mexico 500 in their queue for sweeping, is whenever that gets swept. But I'm going to pass the rest of the response off to Justin. He's the district engineer for District 3, so he oversees not only my section, which is engineering support, but he also has I have a counterpart that's over construction and a counterpart that's over maintenance. So Justin can probably better answer than me.
Thanks, Jill. So to answer the question, it depends on the availability of whether we're looking at bicycles that are using the shoulder versus kind of the planned approach of if they're behind barrier. The areas that are used by bicycles on the shoulder as a bike route, we do coordinate maintenance to sweep those areas. I don't have the exact what time frame that those get swept, but if this is a specific area to an existing problem, we'll take it under advisement, and I'll talk with the South Urban Patrol to see what can be done in that area. As for future maintenance, it's really dependent on those shoulders being available to our machines that can actually sweep those. We use Centurion sweepers just the same as what the city of Albuquerque does, and they're actually pickup brooms. And so those areas, we do put the routes on a cyclical maintenance and we sweep them as time permits.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Jill. Do we have another person with their hand raised, Brittany?
We do. We have Yvette Cardenas with her hand raised, and I will unmute you now. You may have to also unmute on your end. And as a reminder, you may need to select the English channel in your toolbar.
Okay.
Oh, we
Hi.
hear you great.
I'm looking at this, the median just seems small to me. How big is that median?
That's a good question. I will let Megan discuss the size of the median.
Yeah, and this might be helpful to switch back to the slide where we showed the typical section. I will say the images on the screen, they're visualizations to try to show approximately what it'll look like, but they're not necessarily 100% to scale. But here you can see at the top, you'll see the existing typical section that's on the bridges now. And then the bottom is what we are proposing. So we're not looking to decrease that that median at all. Yeah, there you can see that highlighted there. So sorry about that. Yes, so yes, it should be 6 feet, just like it is now. And then there will be the raised median that's within that. I think that's about 4 feet maybe, and then a buffer on each side. But the overall striped median will be 6 feet.
Great. Thank you, Megan. Do we have anyone else online, Brittany, that has their hand raised that we're able to bring in?
We have Nora Garcia. Nora, I will be unmuting you now, and you may need to unmute on your end as well. Nora, I see that you have unmuted, but we're not hearing you. I would recommend confirming that you've clicked interpretation in English or interpretation in Spanish, and we'll have that translated if necessary. All right, we still are not hearing you, so I will work on troubleshooting with you how we can bring you live, and we can go back to some of our online questions, Jennifer.
Okay, great. We have a question from one of our online listeners, ND. Is construction going to occur during the day, night, or weekend? Good question. Thank you. Megan, would you be able to, help us answer this question, or is this better for Sandra or Jill?
If Sandra or Jill wants to chime in, feel free. I think, as I mentioned before, we don't have a detailed schedule yet, but the idea is I think that it could happen I don't think it'll be confined to night or weekend, but if there's other input, feel free.
Thanks,
Megan,
Megan. Oh, go ahead, Justin.
I was just going to mention that this is a construction that is a phased approach that goes through a letting process. It will not be similar to maintenance activities. So when a contract's let, the contractor has available time. That usually is done during the work week. Specific things like concrete pours, because of atmospheric conditions, are usually done at night. And areas where we need to do traffic switches or when we're going to be moving traffic typically happens like in the weekend timeframes or transitions between Sunday and Monday. But I'll let Sandra elaborate a little further as well.
I think you answered it perfectly, Justin. Thanks. Brand, we are a little early on in the design. So once we progress further, we'll be able to phase it out properly and ensure that key phases of the project are constructed at the most beneficial time to keep traffic flowing and be able to complete the project in a timely manner.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Sandra. And actually, I will also add to that regarding construction timing that work within the river we will be looking to have that scheduled during the low flow period to reduce impacts to the silvery minnow. And we are going to be working with our agencies such as Fish and Wildlife Service, Bureau of Reclamation, and others in order to make sure that any of those environmental commitments that have any type of seasonal or timing restrictions or considerations associated with construction, that those are incorporated into the final design plans and into the bid package to the contractor. So great question. Thank you for that. We have another question from one of our online listeners. Will there be trails to ride horseback on the ditch bank during construction and after the project is finished? It's a great question. Megan, would you be able to help us answer that one?
I think so. I'm maybe not entirely picturing where this is talking about when you say ditch bank, but overall, I will say that when you're talking about during construction, there may need to be some, I guess maybe closures or temporary closures to areas that are currently accessible for pedestrians or bicycles or horseback within the parks and the trails, just to make sure we keep everyone safe, make sure nobody's getting too close to where the construction is occurring. There may need to be some space for contractor staging areas and things like that. But one of the overall key aspects of this project is to improve multimodal connectivity and make sure that all of these trails are more accessible, coming from the bridge and to down below and crossing under the bridges and things like that. So I think overall, the trails and access paths will be improved once construction is completed. Not sure if that totally answers the question, but.
And I'll add a little bit. So as far as for horseback riding on the levee trails, the levee roads, which I think might be what you're referring to. So if those areas outside the construction zone, that those will still remain open. Those are facilities MRGCD manages and maintains. So anything outside the project construction zone will still be open. And as Megan mentioned, that for the safety of the public, that areas will be closed just to make sure that the public and hazards cannot interact with each other. As far as will there be brand new trails specifically for horseback riding, Megan had discussed a little bit about with the sidewalks and with some of the trail access connections. And so, as she said, the accessibility will be improved after the project's finished. During construction, there'll be just some temporary impacts to kind of flow and accessibility in that area. So great question, thank you. We have another question from Lori. Lori's question is, will there be a protected pedestrian walkway? Good question, Lori, thank you. Megan, can you help us answer that?
Sure, yeah. If you're talking about on the bridge, there will be pedestrian sidewalks on both the north and south, and they will be separated from traffic with a concrete barrier. And again, we have the new pedestrian inclined walkways that come down from Rio Bravo to connect to the local roads. So those will be, their own separate inclined path with railings. Once you get down onto the trails, I think the idea is it'll basically connect to what's there now. But definitely along the corridor, there will be that separated sidewalk on both sides, unlike what's there right now, which is only on the south side and not continuous along the corridor.
Yeah, and those barriers go across the bridge, like Megan said, but then on the east side at Poco Loco, that intersection, that's where the barriers transition out, and it'll just be normal curb and gutter and no barrier, basically.
Yeah, good point.
So, but across the bridge for sure, as seen on the screen there, if you can see that, the tan looking barrier between the shoulder and the sidewalk.
Great. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Megan. A question from Jerry. Jerry's question is, there are 3 projects being planned for Rio Bravo: the bridge replacement, the redoing of 2nd and Rio Bravo intersection, and the paving of the 3rd lane from 2nd to Isleta. How is this being coordinated? Also, bridge is being redone and will be impacting the Isleta intersection, which is another project to create havoc. How is all of this being coordinated? That's a very good question, Jerry. Thank you. Megan, would you be able to help us answer the question of how all of these are being coordinated?
Sure. We do certainly, as part of this project, have ongoing coordination with Bernalillo County, which I think the projects you're referring to are county projects, and there might be city ones as well. But all of these agencies we coordinate with them throughout the life of the project. This has already been brought up and discussed, and will be continued to be discussed in our coordination meetings, so that the timing, everybody's aware of the timing of the various projects, and that, you know, things where possible can be coordinated, so that, you know, everybody is aware of what's happening when. But I guess Jill or Justin, if you had any additional input on that coordination, feel free to jump in.
Thanks, Megan. I'll add a little bit more, and it's actually going to probably touch on another question I saw, but it's also going to relate to when each of these projects are funded. We are doing our best to coordinate all of these projects behind the scenes, and we do have great working relationships with with the other agencies, such as Bernalillo County, MRGCD, the city of Albuquerque. But it's also trying to, you know, figure out what projects funded where, what those limitations are on the funding, when the funds have to be spent or obligated by. So that's what we're trying to do, because we try to minimize the disruption to traffic the best that we can by working with others. So Justin, I don't know if you have anything else, but I just wanted to add in, you know, the funding aspect.
No, I think that was answered pretty well, Jill. It is very much dependent on where each project is at. Some of the projects that were mentioned are currently in construction. They may still be under construction if this is advanced and funding is identified, but it is dependent on when we can actually get this scheduled based on funding. So I do agree with that statement.
Great. Thank you, Justin, Jill, and Megan. Very helpful. A question from Senator Michael Padilla. His question is, how will the community be able to remain involved in the project as it continues? That's a great question. Thank you, Senator. A way that the public can remain involved in the project, we have our project website, where that will be periodically, as we continue to move forward, new information will be posted up on that website. And as a reminder, that website is NM-500 Rio Bravo.nmdotprojects.org. And we will, following this event, we will be collecting your comments and your input. We accept and encourage you to provide input and ask questions at any point throughout the process. That Sandra Chavez, she is the project development engineer on the project. You can always reach out to her to ask additional questions, or the district will also, as the project moves forward, be looking to figure out additional ways for getting information out to the public and the community, and getting that feedback as we continue to advance with the project, getting it ready for letting it into construction. So you will definitely be hearing from us again in the future, and have the opportunity to at any point go to the website, so that way you remain informed of what we're doing and where we're at with the project. Is there anything anyone wants to add to that? Okay. Let's see. Another question we have from one of our online listeners. Oh, before I do that, Brittany, those that had raised their hand, do we have any of those folks that we've troubleshooted their technical difficulties?
We do have 3 people with their hands raised that we can address questions with. I'm going to repeat instructions for everyone too, just in case you are thinking about raising your hand and you want to know how you can participate. When you raise your hand, just make sure that you've indicated a language channel that you like to listen in your toolbar, whether that's English or Spanish, and we can address questions in either language. And then additionally, when I unmute you, you will get a pop-up that will ask you if you will unmute yourself, and you can do that. And then in your Zoom toolbar, there's also your microphone with a little caret arrow. Looks like this. If you are having audio connection issues, you can click on that and see which microphone is connected on your computer, and it may be that not the incorrect one is selected and you need to change it. So those would be my quick troubleshooting advice for people who would like to come on live. And the first person we will bring on is Yvette Cardenas. So I will be unmuting you now. Yvette, you may need to unmute on your end. All right, we will move to our next person with their hand up, Gary Kaiser. Gary Kaiser, we have unmuted you.
There we go. Thanks everybody for showing up and doing tonight. I missed the first little bit of it because I had to go through the Zoom stuff. Okay, but here I am. Yeah, this project is long overdue, as we all know. But the first thing that came to my mind when we talk about we're going to go 2 lanes one way, 1 lane the other way, and on and on and on. Does the 550 in Bernalillo ring any bells with you people about, oh, 2 years, now it's 3 and they're still not done? I just have that fear, you know, that we're going to get started in this great project and it's going to go and it's going to go and it'll seem like it never gets done. Do we have any assurances once the contract's let that it's going to get done on time and done rightly?
Thank you for your question, Gary. Jill, would you be able to help us answer that question?
I can touch on some of this. And then I don't know if Justin will have anything to add, but you know, part of the ongoing efforts on US 550 in the town of Bernalillo and in the city of Rio Rancho and with Santa Ana. I know to the public, it seemed like it was one ongoing, never-ending project, but keep in mind, just like whenever you do any, work at home, we can only afford so much at one time. So we had to phase the construction in ways with the allowable funding that we had. So we built the North Bridge at US 550. And then we got the funding to come back in and finish doing the widening and do the intersection. We did have to come in and kind of with an unexpected project to rehab the bridge there as well, mostly because once we removed the median between the 2 bridges, that area was not used to traffic loading, and it had not been epoxy overlaid over the years. So there was just some maintenance things that we needed to do to address what happened at 550. This project is a little bit different. We are working with our funding partners and working with the FHWA, Federal Highway Administration, with the Mid-Region Metropolitan Planning Organization, and Senator Padilla. He has been a great supporter of this project. I know prior to the legislative session, I spoke to him about the funding needs we have for this project. But you know, this project is different than 550. It's going to be probably more in line with how the reconstruction of the New Mexico 6 River Bridge went in Los Lunas, where we're going to get in, do it over, it sounds like 2 construction seasons, because we're coming and taking this in one chunk. At least that's how we're looking for the funding at this time, because replacing both of these bridges at one time was analyzed. It helps with the constructability. It actually helps with overall cost and impacts to the public. So that's what I offer as the 550 explanation and for how we see this project moving forward.
Great, Jill. Thank you. Do we have another person with their hand raised, or should I, Brittany, go back to the chat?
Let's go to John Hunter. John, I'm going to indicate that I'm going to unmute you, and you might see a pop-up asking you to unmute yourself.
This is John Hunter. I live in the Rossmore area, and on Poco Loco, are they going to be able to make a right-hand turn? Excuse me, a left-hand turn on the eastbound traffic onto Poco Loco? Because right now we are swamped with AM traffic in the Rossmore area.
Thank you for your question, John. Megan, would you be able to speak to what it will look like, the left-hand turn coming out of Poco Loco?
So that's left-hand turn coming out of Poco Loco. Yeah, I think it was mentioned during the presentation, and Jim can chime in if there's more, but that there will be temporary lights during construction, depending on the phase we're in, to help during construction. And then as far as in the final condition, there is a traffic warrant analysis study going on, or traffic signal warrant analysis going on to determine if a permanent light would be warranted at that intersection. So that's something that's being looked at as part of the design. But Jim, if you have anything else, feel free to chime in.
Yeah, I think he's talking about like in the morning when people going east on Rio Bravo and they turn left, they go through that Rossmore sort of area to cut over to 2nd Street. We did see that in some data that we looked at. So that's a 2-part question. During construction, we're going to try to keep left turns open to traffic because there's not a whole lot of options. If we had to during construction because of constrained right of way, we might make people go up to 2nd, turn left, and then turn back. But we're going to try to keep left turn access open at Poco Loco during construction. And then post-construction, yes, there'll be a left turn bay there. So it'll be a full access intersection. So all movements will be possible.
Great, thank you, Jim. Thank you, Megan. Along that lines, for Poco Loco, since we're already on the subject, a question from Deborah is, cars fly through Poco Loco and through the nearby neighborhood. Will there be possible roadblocks to prevent people from going through the neighborhoods to get past during the construction? That's a good question, Deborah. Thank you. Jim, since you were already talking about that, you want to keep elaborating on that?
Well, that one, I was going to say either maybe Justin might want that one because that's a local road condition on a DOT job. So I'm not sure what the DOT is willing to do on a local street network. I know they'll need to coordinate with Bernalillo County, but I think I want Justin to add to that one.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. It's something that we can take as a comment to move forward with collaboration with Bernalillo County. Poco Loco wouldn't fall under the jurisdiction of the NMDOT, but knowing that that's a concern because of fire response, emergency services, there's not typically where we barricade or block roads that are currently open due to construction projects. But there are probably mitigation measures that we can discuss with the Bernalillo County Public Works section to see if there's measures that can be taken. I know that permanent measures like traffic calming were discussed, and some of the projects that are being done, such as the GAP project and the other project Bernalillo County are doing, really do facilitate fixing traffic issues to make it flow better, to hopefully mitigate some of that, to remove that traffic from wanting to go that way because they perceive it to be faster. We want to keep people on Rio Bravo as the preferred route. It's never a preferred habit for drivers that we would want them cutting through neighborhoods.
Great, thank you, Justin. Thank you, Jim. Another question we have from one of our online listeners, ND, asks, similar to Montano Bridge, will there be a barrier between vehicles and bicyclists and equestrian riders, etc., on north and south sides? Good question, thank you. Megan, would you be able to help us answer that question?
Yes, I think this, thanks for the slide. Yeah, you can see here, this is what the typical section will look like. So there will be a solid barrier between that walkway across the bridge. And as Jim mentioned in response to one of the questions earlier, that barrier doesn't continue all the way along the corridor. It will end, I think, around the Poco Loco intersection, but across the bridge there will be that divider there.
Great, thank you, Megan. Another question from one of our online listeners: has some money been earmarked for this project construction already? That's a good question. Jill, do you want to talk about the money that is currently kind of funded for project construction?
Yes, so currently we have the design funded. When we look at the ESTIP, we have construction currently listed in 26-27, but our intent and our ongoing efforts is to have construction happen as soon as possible. The design team is doing a fabulous job. They are moving along to get this project ready so that if we do identify any funding sources, like I said, I know Senator Padilla and I spoke before the session this year. He said that this is one of his top 10 highest priority projects. So I'm hoping that if not from this legislative session, depending on our federal targets, there's maybe some additional bridge money coming down through the federal infrastructure bill. But basically right now, to say we have funding, it's in 26-27, but we are looking for everything we can to move this project up. It is our deepest hope that this project can go to construction next fall.
Thank you, Jill. That's helpful. Another one of our online listeners has a question. What does the traffic analysis reveal post-construction regarding westbound Rio Bravo to southbound Isleta traffic flow, especially during peak traffic hours? Jim, can you help answer that? And do you need me to repeat the question?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
If you're asking me.
Yes, I'm asking you.
No, the eastbound or the westbound to southbound movement, that's 1,000-foot left turn bay. So that movement's been heavy for years and years and years. So we are not going to do anything to the intersection. There's existing pavement that's striped out there. And there's 2 lanes where it could be turned to a dual left, but could be for safety reasons. That hasn't been done yet. But I think that's going to be a county project. If I remember us talking about that, there's a project coming possibly for Isleta Boulevard. So that intersection would be dealt with in a separate project. But we do expect that movement to stay quite high. So it's going to be a busy movement, just like the north to east right turn. So
Okay, thank you, Jim. We have a question that elaborates a little bit more on the question that was from Deborah. The question is, can another dirt/paved road be made available that vehicles can use instead of cutting through neighborhoods? Justin, would you maybe be able to help us kind of talk a little bit more about that? I know you kind of addressed a lot of it already, but maybe if you could help us.
Sure thing. There's not currently any alternative unpaved routes that are identified at this point of design that we would be doing. It is possible that we've done that in the past. It is part of a right-of-way process where those acquisitions have to be made, and there has to be a commitment, usually from the municipality, whether it be being in this area, more than likely be Bernalillo County, because of what would need to be done with that road post-construction. But at this time, there is not any identified alternative routes that we're looking at that are not within the confines of the right-of-way.
Great, thank you, Justin. Brittany, do we have anyone that has raised their hand that is hoping to be able to be brought live?
We do not, so we can continue with our online questions.
Fantastic, we'll keep doing that then. Another question that we have in our chat is, in case the roads will need to be blocked for construction, will there be signs where traffic will be rerouted? Jim, can you help us answer that since you probably had the traffic control it's kind of already in your brain?
Sure, Jennifer. That one, that's one of the things we do not want to close the bridge. So, because there's no good detour routes. I mean, Bridge Boulevard's already busy, and the next one to the south side, 25. So there's really no good option. So we're going to keep traffic on the bridge, crossing the river in the Rio Bravo corridor. But any detour, within the construction zone will have proper signing to direct people where to go.
Great, thank you, Jim. Another question from one of our online listeners, will there be lighting near or along the bridge? Great question, thank you. Megan, can you help us answer that?
Yes, and yes, there will be lighting along the bridge. It's still in a design stage right now, but there will be. That is part of the design plan.
Great, thanks. Another question from our online listener, if there are enough funding, will there be another new Albuquerque bridge elsewhere in the future? That's a good question. Jill, can you help us answer that question?
Yes, Jennifer, I can. Thank you. That is a good question. At this time, as the DOT, we do not have any plans for new bridges. I also believe as part of the long range plan, and I would have to go on the MPO website. So it's a good tool for others in the area too. So it's the Mid-Region Council of Governments. You can go on the website and look at the long range plan for the metro area. And I believe that there are not any plans in even the long range plan for a new river crossing. I believe the only topic or the only river crossing that's planned for the next 20 years is the one in Los Lunas. So this is one of the reasons why for this corridor, whenever there's something to connect to on either side of the bridge will be built out to allow for the 6-lane section of Rio Bravo from the current 4-lane section. So I hope that helps.
Thank you, Jill. Appreciate it. Another question from one of our online listeners is, can a vertical concrete barrier on the bridge be considered for the median from a long-term safety perspective, i.e. in a similar way as other bridges in the metro area? Great question. Thank you. Megan, can you help us answer that question?
Sure. That is not the plan for this bridge. I think one of the reasons is for safety, so that if emergency response needs to get from one side to the other, that median is mountable. And it is similar to some of the other bridges in the area. Another reason is that it actually did allow for a slightly narrower bridge width overall, because I believe if you would have that vertical barrier, you'd need a more buffer clear zone to the lanes. So it saves a little bit of construction cost as well. But yeah, just slightly raised median that is in the existing condition is what is planned for the new condition as well.
Great. Thank you, Megan. Another question from one of our online listeners, James. James asks, will this project build an overpass going over the train tracks east of 2nd Street? Great question. Megan, can you help us answer that question as well?
Sure. The answer is no. This project ends just before 2nd Street, so the 2nd Street intersection and anything to the east is not part of this project.
Great, thank you. Brittany, do we have anyone on that has raised their hand that was looking to come live?
Not have anyone with their hand up currently.
Okay. Well, it looks like we have exhausted the questions in our Q&A chat. If anyone still has questions, drop your questions in there, raise your hand. We're definitely here to answer any and all questions that you have right now. But as a reminder, it is okay if you do not want to ask your question right now, are not prepared to ask a question, you're still digesting all the information that we presented this evening, that we want to hear from you after this event, and there are multiple ways that you can do that. Nick, if you would maybe just bring up that slide as a reminder for any questions, answers, how to contact me would be through email, which is jennifer.hyre@wsp.com, or you can call me at area code 505-878-6577. If you want to handwrite your comment and drop it in the postal mail, you can send it to our WSP office address in Albuquerque on Louisiana Boulevard. Please go to and use our MetroQuest survey. We would love for you to interact with that. Give us input on your concerns, your priorities. To be able to access our MetroQuest online survey, you can go to the web address of linktr.ee/NM500 Rio Bravo. So we encourage you to provide comments, ask questions in all of the different ways. And Brittany, do we have anyone that has raised their hand since I started talking again?
We do. We have Stephen Abeta who would like to ask a question, and so I'm going to unmute him now.
Great.
Thank you, Brittany. The question I have is, how can we as citizens here of Bernalillo County get the funding for the project and so it won't be segmented? Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Great question. Jill, can you help us answer that question?
I can. So, one is through the legislation, work with your local representatives. Like I said, I do think, once again, Senator Padilla, he has been very, very supportive of this project. Let him know how important this project is and to get it completed, and hopefully we can identify some of the funds in the upcoming legislative session for next year. The other alternative is through that government resource I spoke to earlier, the Mid-Region Council of Governments. We have meetings. The first Friday of the month is TCC, but this is a little bit convoluted, so follow me. The Tuesday before the first Friday is TPTG. They welcome a public comment. We are coming into a very essential TIP development cycle, the Transportation Improvement Program. So let the staff at the MPO know, and you can, Jennifer, maybe you can reach out to Jennifer and she can give you my contact information, so that you can let them know how important this is, so that hopefully they will help give us some additional federal funds for this project as well.
Thank you, Jill. Yeah, that's really helpful. Yes, please, if you're interested in those meetings, feel free to contact me. We can get you information on being able to participate in those. Along those lines, we have a question from Jerry. Their question is, what is the estimated cost of the bridge construction? That's a good question. Jill, can you help us answer that one as well?
Based on the meeting we had real recently on this project, and Megan can correct me if I'm wrong, we're talking to the tune of $61 million for construction, the construction aspect of this project. That does not include what we've already invested in this project for design. Megan, do you have something different?
No, that was about the number I was going to say. That was somewhere on the order of 60 million is the cost estimate right now. Obviously, we're still in a preliminary design phase, but yes, that based on what we have looked at so far and the estimated design aspects of the project, that's about right. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Megan. Another question we have from one of our online listeners, will there be safety precautions in place for the construction workers? Sandra, would you maybe be able to help us answer that question?
Sure, Jennifer. We do our very best to ensure that the public is safe during their travel through our work zones, as well as taking precautions to ensure that all the construction workers are also safe through the construction zone as well. They do have standards that they need to follow, whichever contractor is awarded the project. They do have certain standards that they also need to follow to ensure that their workers stay safe.
Great, thank you, Sandra. And to add to that a little bit as part of the safety, Jim touched a little bit on that previously, but there will be signage along the corridor, traffic calming. There'll be a lot of, along those lines of the requirements, things in order to protect the workers, protect the public during the construction. So thank you for that question. Brittany, do we have anyone else who has raised their hand?
We do. We have the name that we're seeing is Chris OG or Chris Og. So I am going to give you the opportunity to unmute and ask your question. And we are not hearing you, although I see you're unmuted. So you might need to check which microphone is connected to the device that you're using and ensure that's the correct one. I see that you are muting and unmuting, but unfortunately we still can't hear you. I might recommend placing your question in the Q&A chat box and we will be sure to address it.
We're very sorry that you were having technical difficulties. I know how frustrating that can be because it is rather challenging being in our virtual environment, and it's so great to be able to interact with all of you virtually and being able to hear your voices. So I am sorry, sir, that you are having some struggles there. If you were able to drop it in the Q&A chat, we would love to answer your question. Obviously, as an alternate, you can always contact me through phone or email in order to make sure that we're able to connect and talk with you about your questions and concerns and get anything that you're interested in addressed and talked through. Do we still have him on? I want to try again.
I will try one more time.
Okay.
I'm not sure necessarily what the issue is. So unfortunately, it doesn't seem like we're able to bring him on. I'm so sorry about that, sir.
Okay, yeah, hopefully, please, sir, do reach out to me so that way we're able to chat and connect with you. I don't have any other open questions in the, oh, I said that and you snuck it in there. We do have another question in the online chat. Do you have a social media page for bridge construction? The DOT maintains a social media page for just general news coming from the DOT. We posted the announcement for this public meeting on the DOT social media page, being Facebook and Twitter. As far as for and Jill or Sandra might be able to speak to this a little bit more as to when it is during construction, what type of social media posts go out on the DOT's page. Because I'm not as familiar with some of those postings. Definitely our public information officers during construction send out notices through their channels, but specifically for social media during construction. Sandra or Jill, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so thank you for mentioning about our social media page. So we are active on, I believe, Twitter, Instagram. I'm not so sure about Facebook, but that's really more one-way communication where we're pushing information out to the public. It's not interactive. We don't have somebody that monitors to respond to any questions or comments that are received on our social media pages. This project specifically will have the NM-500 Rio Bravo .NMDOT projects. You can always go there for this project specifically. We will be updating it for this project through the design life, through construction. I think we had talked internally about even with some of the upcoming maintenance projects or maintenance repairs we're going to do, we'll post that on there as that gets scheduled. NM Roads is always a good tool too for projects and other information like our weather reports or road conditions during inclement weather. We have that on there. And then if you go to the DOT website and you have any projects, questions, or bridge related questions that are on state roads, please go to the DOT website. And if you go to District 3, that's the district that Justin and myself represent, where this project is at. And there's contact information on there for me. I oversee our bridge inspection program with the district, and I can help answer any other project questions you may have. If you noticed, a lot of the funding questions came to me. I deal with a lot of the planning and programming for projects in the District 3 area that receive federal funds, and I would be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Great. Thank you, Jill. It looks like the gentleman who we were unfortunately not able to bring in live. Thank you, sir, for putting your question in the chat. The question and comment is, thank you for this forum. Is there another forum to discuss other issues like semi-trucks occupying both lanes on eastbound Rio Bravo to I-25 northbound? Maybe let me, Jill, you've kind of answered that with the last question. And maybe if you can elaborate on the other forums and people to contact to discuss some of these other issues.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. So again, and I apologize, I probably should know this. I believe the DOT website is www.dot dot.state.nm.us. There you can go to the district. So again, the Albuquerque metropolitan area, we cover all of Bernalillo County. We cover southern Sandoval County, Valencia County. So basically I-25 from south of La Bajada down to south of Belen, and I-40 from Tajali to about half or just past Cedillo, between Cedillo and Edgewood. That's kind of, geographically what District 3 kind of represents. And in there you can see contact information, like I said, for myself. Janae Gallegos is somebody else that's on, has contact information, can get any of your questions, concerns, comments. I believe there's also a standard email, like a QCC email that it will come to somebody at the district, and we can push that question out to get you answers. But again, some of the items you're talking about, that's also kind of an enforcement thing. So you can reach out to Bernalillo County, you can reach out to us, and we can let our partners at the various law enforcement agencies, such as the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office or state police, kind of know what's going on. We can always try to enhance signage if we feel that might help address the issue. So I hope that helps address your question. Thank you, Jennifer. Sorry, we have a little chat on the side. So again, the DOT site is dot.nm.gov. And specifically to come to the District 3 portion of it is www.dot.gov/contact-us/district/district-3. And Dominic, thank you for putting that in the chat to everyone.
Great. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Jennifer and Dominic as well. We have a comment from Senator Padilla. It's along the lines of asking about the social media. Thank you so much for weighing in, Senator. The comment is, I post updates for this great project on my social media, Facebook, Insta, Twitter pages as well. So you can certainly follow the Senator's pages, and we will drop how you can find Senator Padilla's different social medias in the chat to everyone, so that way you're able to follow him and get additional ways for getting updated on this project. We have another question from one of our online listeners. The question was, I was late to join the meeting, but how will the project affect the homes and businesses near the bridge? That's a great question. I'm glad you joined us this evening and asked us a question. Megan, can you help us answer the question about homes and businesses near the bridge?
Sure. As far as actual physical impacts, we are not looking at any building impacts specifically or home impacts. As far as the properties, there may be some or will be some property right-of-way takes that are needed because the bridge and the road is shifting to the north from where it is right now. So in order to make that shift, some of those properties will be permanently impacted. But as far as the homes and buildings specifically, there is no intent to impact those buildings.
Megan, you could review the right-of-way slides if the person wasn't able to see the presentation.
Yeah, that is true. Nick, if you could switch back to those. Yeah, so here, yes, this is the slide we showed to kind of depict the right-of-way takes that are going to be needed on the west side. So you can see In the bottom picture, it just shows a little area that would be needed for a temporary construction permit. And then that bigger picture shows along the north side of Rio Bravo where we're expecting there to be permanent right-of-way takes in order to construct the bridge and construct some of those local roads that will need to shift. And then the bottom area to the south shows MRGCD impacts to the properties that they manage. And then here on the east side, similar impacts are shown. You can see on the left-hand side, there is some permanent right-of-way that is needed along the north of Rio Bravo. Then north of that is the MRGCD impacts around the park there to construct the new facilities and access roads there. And then the right-hand pictures on the bottom, it shows a construction maintenance easement that would be needed along, that's further to the east of the project, but still along the south side of Rio Bravo. And then the big picture on the top shows on the bottom right, you can see permanent impacts that would be needed for to construct that turn onto Dean Drive, as well as some drainage that is needed to be constructed there. And then you can see a little bit on the top left, you can kind of see how those permanent impacts that are shown to the left taper down, along the north side of Rio Bravo there. So again, none of that is looking at impacting buildings, but that is, you can see there some of those property impacts that are expected.
Great, thank you, Megan. And thank you, Jim. And just to add to that, for any of the private property acquisitions that would be needed, all of that would follow the standard NMDOT right-of-way process for the acquisition and for the valuation. And so thank you to all of you for helping with that. As a reminder, please feel free to go to our MetroQuest survey, provide us comments. You don't have to use a MetroQuest survey. We also accept other comments as well. I don't see that we have anything else as far as questions from people. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Justin Gibson, District 3 District Engineer, to close us out for the evening.
Thank you, Jennifer. I just wanted to say that I really appreciate everybody's participation tonight, especially from the public. This project is a priority for the district, as you can see from the presentation tonight. We're working hard to secure funding to move forward with that. And I also want to make a special thanks to the elected officials, especially Senator Padilla, for his support of this area. The New Mexico 500 corridor, which is Rio Bravo, has been under reconstruction for a couple of years. You guys probably have seen the I-25 interchange was reconstructed down to New Mexico 47, which is Broadway. This is kind of a continuation of it. There's also been support from Bernalillo County in some of the projects that we had spoke about that are between the bridge east of this project. And I would remind individuals to be patient. There will be disruptions and delays and impacts from construction. I know that there was a parallel drawn earlier tonight between this and the US 550 corridor. I don't think that that parallel necessarily fits. More to the traffic is kind of different in this area compared to that northwest corridor. If anybody's familiar with further south in Valencia County, in Los Lunas, this is going to be more akin to the New Mexico 6 bridge replacement that had lower impact than the US 550 bridge. But one thing that I'd also like to mention is special thanks to WSP for hosting this online platform, and also to the staff from WSP, and also to my assistant district engineer, Jill Mosier, and to Central Region Design, to Sandra Chavez, and to Priscilla Benavides. I know that this project, it's close to home for some of them, and there's a deep draw for community in this area, and we will definitely keep that in consideration in your thoughts and everything that you've mentioned during this presentation as we move forward with design. With that, I'd like to thank everybody for their participation tonight. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Justin. And with that, thank you to all of you for joining us this evening. We're glad to be able to meet with you virtually and offer this safe platform to interact and take your questions, provide you with some additional information. And we hope you enjoy the rest of your evening and have a safe good night.